The official unemployment rate among youth aged 15 to 34 above 46%, and that goes up, as we've been discussing tonight, to around 64% for young people under the age of 24. To add to their economic woes, environmental challenges, mental health issues, concerns over climate change. And then we have the bigger picture. This is all happening in a time of COVID-19, South Africa struggling financially. Joining us now is Father Simangaliso Mkhatshwa, to talk about leadership. He, of course, is leader of the Moral Regeneration Project, involved in governance in South Africa as well. Father, thank you for being with us. Firstly, your comments this Youth Day. President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier saying that youth are front and center of government policy and strategy, but that certainly is not coming through in the unemployment data, for example.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I've always believed that the effectiveness or lack thereof of leadership, it depends very much also on the social context. Now, why I'm saying that is because in a situation that we find ourselves in South Africa, where we are facing huge challenges of blatant corruption, violence, the murder of women and children, we're facing poverty, and especially at this time when on this day, when we commemorate the 1976, students' rebellion and so on and so on, the huge unemployment of young people, which obviously is a time bomb ticking, waiting to explode. We're then saying the kind of leadership that we need at this time is one that is decisive, a leadership that has a vision for the future of this country, a leadership also that is guided by ethical principles. By that, we don't obviously mean people going to church or to religious services or anything of the sort, which of course would be great. I'm a priest myself. That would be very great. But what we're really talking about is the kind of leadership which will say the common good of the millions of people, especially the disadvantaged, should be priority number one. So that's why I say leadership cannot be assessed in the abstract, as it were.
Well, Father, can I ask you this? Ethical leadership, we need it. I mean, young people without jobs must be despairing, and then they hear at the State Capture Commission how people with power and wealth abused it extensively. But is ethical leadership enough right now, or do we need leaders with ideas? Because we've been talking about the same economic problems for years and years and years.
Yes, we need a doer. We need someone who will implement. Just to give you an example, a couple of years ago, when I was the president of the UCLGA, I had the opportunity of meeting a president of what's the name of that funny country now? Well, the capital city is Kigali. Paul Kagame.
Rwanda.
That's correct. I had an opportunity of meeting that man. But what came across to me very forcefully was that he's a man who is decisive. Just to give you an example, for example, I've been told that whereas there were private schools, there were public schools, that at the moment, over the past few years, the private schools have decided to close shop themselves, not because they had a problem with the government and so on, but because the government had decisively decided that lots of resources should be directed towards the improvement of public education, which is, of course, accessible to the rich and the poor. For me, that's decisive leadership, and that's what we need in this country, because we cannot continue having so many murders, so many rapes, so many, funny things happening day in and day out and so on, and people doing everything that is not in the best interest of this country. And therefore we need, at some stage, someone who simply just put his or her foot down and say, guys, this is where we stop in the best interest of the country. That's what I mean by ethical leadership, because ethical leadership is not just a nice guy who goes to church on Sundays or something like that, but it's someone who says, let us prioritize the common good of all. And in this country, historically, when we're talking about good of all,
all right. Father, we have to leave it there. I hope to chat to you in future, and especially about Rwanda, touted as the next Singapore of Africa. But are the methods being used there effective? Are they ethical? Talking about the young people in South Africa, Father Simangaliso Mkhatshwa, head of the Moral Regeneration movement. Let's get some